Hey everyone, it's Arsycast reminding you to subscribe now. Hit the bell notification so that you can get notified every time I post a video on the channel. This video is a conversation between me and my friend Noam Tomaschoff. Noam is a filmmaker and an actor that I met while I was at NYU, and he always has great insights into what it was like for him transitioning from being a theater actor to being a professional filmmaker. Now, right before we actually filmed this interview, Noam and I were actually already into a deep discussion about regional theater in America and what it's like to be an actor touring with a professional company, but this video actually begins where that discussion leaves off and then gets into the heart of what we really wanted to talk about, which was what Noam learned writing and directing his first ever feature film called Tank House. So, without further ado, enjoy the video.
So all of these things that we're talking about regional theaters and the culture of being a theater actor in America and understanding all of these actually physical structures and all that, it actually all connects both thematically and plot-wise to your latest movie, which you co-wrote and directed and produced and helped find financing for, which was called Tank House. So tell us about Tank House.
Tank House is a quirky ensemble comedy about a couple who are very much sort of very ambitious, pretentious maybe, thespians in New York. These big avant-garde theater actors who suddenly find themselves excommunicated from their theater group, which, is essentially like a death sentence in this world where, the group that you're in your theater companies can feel like the entire world. And if you're no longer a member of that, then you're suddenly very isolated. And they run out of money and they just decide to retreat back to her hometown of Fargo, North Dakota, which is where we shot the entire movie, virtually except for a couple days here. And so once they're there, they start their own theater company to try and win a competition that's happening in town for a residency at the historic Fargo Theater, which is a real theater, and it's exactly one of the types of theaters that I was seeing all across the country during that tour. Mm-hmm. Like 1,000 seats, orchestra, and a balcony with all sorts of designs and lighting on the sides, and a big stage and a big curtain. It's mostly a movie theater now. But it was originally built for theater. And once they get there, they form their theater company, and they think it's going to be a cakewalk, but they soon discover that there's already a theater company in town, and they're very professional and good. And so the plot of the movie centers around both sides of the competition sort of getting ready to see who gets to win a residency at that theater. But the emotional core of the movie is really about the relationship between the two leads, because what happens to them is what happens, I think, to a lot of people in the arts who, it's such a vulnerable and free-form lifestyle that when you find somebody who you can connect with and sort of spar with and develop yourself with, you become very, very close, and you have a relationship, you work together, you live together, everything becomes all intertwined, and for a time you can really help each other grow. And then, at a certain point, because you are not the same people, despite how close you may become, you begin to observe that you may want different things out of your artistic exploits and your career, and that in fact, this partnership itself ends up holding you back from going in those opposite directions that you need to go to in order to continue to evolve, which is key. I think artists more acutely than most people feel the pain of stagnation, because art creation is, it requires your brain to kind of fizz and for you to find ways to get into flow where you're just kind of, the thing is falling out of you. And if something is tamping that down, it's you can become very depressed and lethargic and sort of lose steam. So that's essentially what happens to the couple in the movie. They go from a place of sort of lockstep agreement to sort of discovering the rifts between them to then essentially being confronted with this question. It's like, can we continue to do what's right for ourselves whilst still being together?
Yeah. It's not just an enjoyable movie, but I found that all of the things that you're talking about really ring true, because a lot of people, especially artists who, I remember specifically, we were told in our first week at NYU, you've made it.
No.
Well,
Yes.
in welcome week at NYU Tisch, over and over again we heard, you made it to Tisch, like you've done it now. And you hear this phrase also coming up, it's like you have nothing to prove, only to share. And it is a very much of a you're indoctrinated really, and that comes with it not just an ego, but also just an understanding of the world that is very small. You feel like suddenly the world got very small because you've achieved the highest level within this institution of prestigious acting programs. So with that comes a very humbling having experience of having to recalibrate not just your professional expectations but your personal expectations, because when you get out there and you realize the larger demands of a career in acting, a career in the arts, you're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah.
Essentially.
And a different boat.
In a different boat, exactly.
And this is as a director, what I feel best, or perhaps my strongest skill, is communicating and sort of working with actors to unlock the scene. I think, every scene is kind of like a riddle or, a safe, and then you work together just to crack it. And I think obviously the acting background helps a lot with that. And one of the things that I've observed working with different kinds of actors is that really, potentially, the how to develop yourself as an actor is a very individual program. Different people need different things. And if you look at the way the Russians used to do it, you would kind of just jump on the wagon of like a touring theater company, and through the very act of performing in shows and apprenticing and kind of cutting your teeth in practice, you would find your program. But now arts education is first and foremost a commercial commodity, and you can't run a business if every student's curriculum is going to be different. So necessarily, it has to be presented as something that is, a regimen that one size fits all, essentially. And I think it leaves a lot of people really, really misguided about what, honestly, acting really is.
Which is what?
Well, it's you. It's kind of like a circle. Like you start here and you're like, what is acting? What do I do with my hands? Where do I look when I talk to somebody? And then you go on a sort of journey, and then you arrive back here and it's you. And when it's you, you can do anything because you never have to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course there's certain like cosmetic changes, that you make for the character and like little adjustments. But when you are in the ballpark, every choice is correct.
Hey everyone, it's Arsycast. I hope you enjoyed part 1 of my interview with Noam Tomaschoff. Stay tuned for part 2, and in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you can get updates every time I post a video on the channel.